There we go.
Hello. Hi everyone. We'll just give it another wee minute before we get started. We're just waiting for more attendees to join. I'll give it another minute and then we'll get started. Okay, I think we'll just get started just now. Hi everyone. My name's Lee Ping and I'm one of the account managers at KIC. This afternoon we've got a great presentation being delivered by Rob Jackson at Cosmos. We're going to be looking at some Cosmos reporting. It's basically a lightning fast reporting analytics cloud platform for reporting, which is built for Business Central Cloud. I think the agenda for this afternoon is about 45 minutes, and we should have some time for questions and answers at the end. This is KIC's second webinar we've delivered with Cosmos, and from the last webinar and throughout the year, we've had quite a few customers who are moving across to Cosmos because they're benefiting from the ease and the flexibility and the speed of their reporting capabilities. Within the browser, when you're logged on, you should have an option to put in some questions. There's a chat and a questions section. If you've got any questions, please put through some questions and I'll cover them at the end. What I'll do just now, I'll hand you over to Rob and we can get started. Thanks, Rob.
Okay, thank you very much, Lee, and thanks everyone for joining the session. So just to run through, we are going to be looking at first things first. When you have Business Central in the cloud, what are your reporting options and the approaches that you can take? And we'll just take a look at why the need for Cosmos, i.e. a third-party tool for reporting and analytics. We'll look at the actual components of Cosmos, so we'll actually look around the actual product itself as well, and we are going to be looking at a couple of use cases. I'm going to be focusing today a little bit on batch reporting, so we'll take a look into the Cosmos portal to focus on that. And plus, also quite exciting, this is the first webinar where we are able to give you, let's say, a sneak peek at the brand new Cosmos portal, which is due out in a couple of 3 months time. So and please do, we like these sessions to be kind of interactive, so please feel free to ask any questions as we kind of move along. So first things first, when you have Business Central in the cloud, you've got a number of different reporting options available to you. We'll start actually in the middle of this slide, which is Business Central itself, because Business Central has some native reporting capabilities. Of course, it's included within the actual product itself, and there's a suite of reports that are included out of the box. I think that in general, customers can work to a point with these reports. One thing in particular with Business Central is that when you're logged into a company, you're logged into one specific company at a time. So if you're an organization that's got lots of different legal entities, then sometimes it can be tricky to pull all of that data together. Plus also Business Central, you have to assign 2 of your dimension codes as your global dimensions, and there are some restrictions around the flexibility of how you can report against those. But I think one of the most important points with BC native reporting is that if you were to want to have a report written especially for you, that actually requires fairly technical development skills, and often customers turn to partners to kind of get that developed for them. But in the end, you still get, let's say, a pretty fixed report in terms of its output and its capabilities. So second, I'll look at Power BI just on the right hand side, and Business Central and Microsoft, they make available some pre-built reporting dashboards that work with Power BI. Once again, these are single company at a time. I think that what we see is where customers want to have something a little bit extra out of the solution, or they might have some custom tables and custom fields, and that is information that is not easily exposed by Microsoft. So I think that these pre-built report templates go so far, but I think most customers have normally got some KPIs, some measures, that type of thing that they really want to look at specifically themselves. And I think Power BI can be quite technical to implement, because it involves quite a lot of data modeling on one hand, as well as actually building the visualizations on the other hand. And then coming back to the left-hand side with Cosmos. So Cosmos is basically a third-party tool, so it is a separate add-on solution. It's built from the ground up specifically for Business Central in the cloud. It's built very much for business users. So a lot of people that we've trained with Cosmos have been able to actually develop or design the actual reports themselves. So we've got a very friendly tool set to be able to write structured Excel reports, as well as us being able to provide pre-built data models for Power BI, which makes it very easy to build the visualizations. And also this all comes out of the Cosmos data model, which we'll take a look at, which is a multi-company environment. So Lee, do you mind if I just ask you a couple of questions about or just your feedback about these three different types of reporting and the challenges that you've seen with your customers?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I think Power BI has been a challenge for some customers. As I said, although it's a nice quick visualization tool, it's a data modeling. It's quite, you probably need a level of expertise to understand the tables, the joins, and then and link them all together. But obviously with your model, your data model, and your Power BI connector, that takes that sort of that issue away, because I believe it all joins together for you, just out that connection.
Yeah, exactly. And I think customers, let's say they want the dashboards, they want the visualizations and the interactivity, but I think what is not realized is the effort that it takes to actually design the actual data to get it into a shape. One of the things with Business Central is that the data is stored in a way that doesn't really, it's not really in the format that Power BI needs. So one of the jobs that we're doing as Cosmos is to reformat the data into a reporting model that suits itself well to Power BI. So
yeah, and I found that customers are using Cosmos in terms of the training requirements and how the ease of use in comparison to other products. They get started with it, and then they're just on the go with it themselves. So they're very much self-serviced, and in a way of writing reports that don't need that level of sort of technical development.
yeah, absolutely. And what we'll do actually as part of this session is we'll just jump in and take a look at an example of some of the training resources. So Cosmos makes available, it's completely open gated, all of the training resources to customers as well. But I mean, thank you for your feedback there. With Cosmos, and when you're working with Business Central SaaS as well, one important thing is that our service is actually hosted on the Azure platform as well. So a really important thing is that all of our reports, when they're executed, are executed on the same Azure data center that Business Central is hosted on. So you can think of Cosmos as a service that sits right next door to Business Central, and that means that we've got a lot of scalability. So when you run a report, it runs very quickly. All reports run concurrently, so if you've got lots of users running different reports at different times, then it runs very fast, and it doesn't clog up people's local machines either. So I think with legacy style Excel-based reporting tools, when you're running a report that might take a long time to run, it kind of glues your machine up, and you're just not able to continue to work. So that's something that Cosmos completely eliminates from the picture. So let's move on and just take a look at the actual components that make up Cosmos, and we are going to start with the Cosmos portal, which is our web-based interface that you would log into with your Microsoft credentials, and you would come here pretty much for any operation within the system, whether it's creating brand new reports or templates, or editing existing ones, with your adding and removing users. If you want to schedule reports or archive reports, you basically come into the Cosmos portal to manage all operations within the system. So we'll dive in and take a look at that. And we've got a very quick onboarding process. So from start to finish, we can onboard customers in 30 minutes with an out-of-the-box data model that can be easily extended to include custom tables, custom fields. Some of Kik's customers have got customizations within their system where they might have some different field attributes against items or customers, that type of thing. And that's quite straightforward to extend the data model to include that information. When it comes to the reporting, we are working with a report editor. This is a modern Office add-in that sits inside both Excel Desktop and Excel Online. And this basically exposes a tool set where business users can author reports, and you can structure and lay out reports in exactly the way that the business needs. And also you've got the advantage that the Cosmos data model has already got pre-built the relationships between the tables in the model. So it just means that you're doing less kind of linking together of information within the report. And we've already done things like lookups and calculations prior to that. So the data is effectively already in the correct shape. So there's a lot less effort when it actually comes to designing reports. And what I'm going to show today is just, I'll show you an example of how a report is built up, and then we're going to be looking at some batch scheduling, which is a really useful feature that we've got available to us within Cosmos. As well as structured Excel reporting, which is really good for financial reporting or just daily operational reports, that type of thing. Of course, we've got lots of customers that want to use Power BI. And like we've mentioned, Power BI is really a job, if you like, of two halves. First is kind of getting your data into the correct shape, because data within Business Central is structured quite a bit differently to how is an ideal picture for Power BI. So this is something that we take care of with the preparation of our data model, and then it just leaves the job of building the actual visualizations for customers to put together Power BI content. So again, it just makes the whole thing a lot simpler and easier for business users. And furthermore, the Cosmos data model is also multi-company enabled as well. So when you're using the out-of-the-box content for Power BI back to Business Central, that's all one company at a time. But what we can do is gather data together from multiple companies and be able to report on that together. So without any further ado, we don't want to have too much PowerPoint presentation, so I'm just going to jump across and just jump straight into the Cosmos portal. So I'm just here in the reporting section, and as mentioned, what I want to focus on is this this sales report, which is basically set up for batch distribution. So what I'll do is manually run this report first, basically without any filter or anything for the salesperson code. This is an opportunity to users can change the filter here for the year. So even if you're not somebody that can design the actual report template, when you run a report, you've got the opportunity to change the filters here or switch the filters on for salesperson code. This shows the activities of the report as it executes, and this particular report is designed to create an Excel workbook with a separate worksheet per salesperson. So that's what these initials indicate just coming down here. And if I open up the output of the report, we'll see what has been created. So Cosmos is linked in the background to a SharePoint repository, and that basically stores the output of the report temporarily, or I've got the opportunity to archive this output as a snapshot. So as you can see at the bottom of the report on the actual sheets, I've got one tab for every salesperson, and then on each sheet we're basically listing out the customers down the page. So this is just the customers for this particular sales person, Jessica. And then coming across in columns, we've got all of the months being built out dynamically based on the year that we picked. And then in the center, so we've got the intersect of the customer and what the customer has purchased in a particular month. If I just open up the task pane for the Cosmos add-in, this will basically show some detail behind this particular aggregate. So this confirms to us that we are summing up the sales field from the sales transactions table, and the filter section basically confirms that it's for salesperson JM, customer number C1101, and it's Feb 2024 that the data is for. And even if you're a light user within Cosmos, we have two main user types. Full users can actually design these templates themselves, but a light user can run the report with their own filters. They can use the drill down functionality to see all of the transactions that sit behind a certain aggregate. So what this will do is run a separate drill down report, and then this will just pop out with all of the transactions that basically make up the total that we saw. And this gives you access to every single table within, or every field, sorry, within the transactional table. And then from here, you can do ad hoc pivot analysis or anything like that. Now, what we see is a lot of requests for, okay, how do we distribute these reports out to individual users? So we've got a sales report. Okay, this is for a year, but it could be for a week or a month or something like that. And bear in mind, the structure of this report is by salesperson, but the sheet could be anything. It could be salespeople, it could be companies, it could be departments, it could be cost centers, doesn't really matter. The rows of the report in this case is customers, but it could be items or item categories or that type of thing. And equally with the columns, you can choose any type of data that you want. So that could be it could be a dimension code or something like that. So this is just an example of the dynamic capability that we've got within Cosmos. We'll just take a quick look at the layout of actually how the report is built. So this is the view that a report editor would see, and this is just going to pop open the template. So this is effectively a collapsed version of the report output that we have just seen. So it looks very straightforward. What I'll do is just in a second, just open up Cosmos, and we'll just take a look at the functions that build out the content that we've just seen. So this time, when I open the task pane, we've got these different tools that are available to us to build out the report content. So to begin with, the report options ask us, okay, what year do we want to run the report for? And do I want to add any salesperson code filters? Then this function here, which is the sheet lists, this basically breaks out all of the worksheets by salesperson code coming from the sales transactions table, and it's range lists that basically build out the row content. So this basically snaps the function to this area of the report that gets repeated downwards for every sell to customer number. And then in the opposite direction, this is the selection of cells that work in the opposite direction in months across the right-hand side. So effectively, this is the template that expands out into this type of output. Now, we are supported in Cosmos with an AI helper called Captain Cosmos. So we effectively call this Captain Cosmos, and you can ask the captain any question that you like. So if I just put here, for example, how do I run batch reports? Okay, so this is a fairly recent feature within Cosmos. So the idea is that you can ask Captain Cosmos some questions in natural language. This is linked up to a really comprehensive knowledge base of articles and videos and that type of thing. So it's content where you can get up and running. So this will give you like an AI output and also a link directly to an article that will explain to me, okay, how do I create a batch schedule? So a batch schedule is used when you want to schedule a report en masse, basically. So just further down, there's a short video here that explains the process, and you have to create a batch file that gives you an Excel template that you basically can fill in with every single iteration of the report that you want to run. And in this case, it would be a matter of selecting which salesperson code we want the report to run for. So whilst, let's say I'm in a finance department, I'm able to run a version of this report basically that includes every single salesperson. But if I come out to the batch template that I've just designed here earlier, if I check this out in Excel Online, this will give you an example of how this is basically built out. And what this shows us is the same report name all the way down. You can actually include multiple report names within the same batch template. I've just got the one report here. And then actually I'm set as the recipient for every single iteration of the report. And then the values here are my filter values. So what will happen is for this top iteration of the report, this will just send out a worksheet for salesperson AH or AT, CN, that type of thing. And actually, Lee, just for a bit of fun, whilst you're on the call, I'm actually going to change the recipient here to yourself, and then actually you'll be the recipient once this basically runs. So you can update the template as you basically require. So I'll just change that to Lee, and then I'll close this and then check in the batch file. So once I've made changes to this in my workspace, the batch file down here basically is set up to run on a schedule. You can run scheduled tasks in one of two ways, either by setting a date and time. So if I edit the template here, I could set this to run on a weekly basis, say on a Monday at 9 o'clock every morning. In this case, I've actually got the schedule disabled, which means that I can just run this on demand. So if I press run now, this will start a background process to run several different iterations of the same report. So if you imagine that every single salesperson is going to receive a version of the report, and then in short time, Lee, you're going to get an email with the output of that on, and then all of the rest should basically show up in my inbox. And whilst I'm not going to show you my inbox, what I will do is just take a quick snipping tool of it, just so you can see the output as it's coming through live. So if I just drag this across, you can see here 1423. So I've got all of these different versions of the report, and then if I open up just one of those in isolation and then double click, that will just pop that open in Excel, and this will be a report that's just got one single tab attributed to it. So if I just take this across, this is for salesperson AT, and this shows, yep, same thing, the customers and the months and whatever the sales are. Okay, so that just gives you an example, a good example, hopefully, of how batch reports are basically run. All of this is supported by our multi-company data model. So inside Cosmos, if I just come to the manage section, we connect to Business Central and we specify the companies that we want to pull data from. So in this case, I've got two companies that are coming out into my data model, and the data model gives us a much simpler view of the information as it appears in Business Central. So for example, the sales transactions table that I was working from, this is actually fed by a number of different Business Central tables. So all of these tables across the top feed into this one simpler table, which just represents posted sales transactions. And this merges invoices together with credit memos, that type of thing. It reverses the sign on credit memos for quantity and that type of thing. So it just makes it a lot easier for us to deal with, rather than having lots of different tables to work with. And that's important with Power BI. So I'm just going to pull up a Power BI dashboard here that connects to a subset of those tables in the data model. So on the right hand side here, you'll see that I've got a table here called sales transactions, and that is exactly the same table that I'm reporting from with Excel. So if I want to ask a question of Power BI and say, okay, what did I think we were looking at Jessica Monroe. What did she sell in 2024? I should basically come back to the same 4.06 million. If I just come back to the report that we did, I'm on Jessica Monroe. If we come across and I come back to exactly the same set of data, and this is really key and important because most businesses have got two different styles of reports that they want to send out. One is in Excel, which is more structured reports, and then the other is a more interactive view of data. And don't forget, this is all at multi-company level. So this is effectively a multi-company dimensional model that is hooked into Power BI that comes straight from Cosmos, and it allows us to choose any dimension with any value in any combination. So it gives us pretty much immediate results and gives us a much more kind of graphical and higher overview of the actual data itself. The model view for this, if I make this slightly bigger, this is a classic star schema where, again, the transactional table is in the center of the data model, and all of our dimensions that we can select from are on the outside of this model. So if I want to filter by location or see sales by item or by date or by salesperson, etc., then I can easily filter by that. So this model is something that you can download from our website. We've got a number of these available, and then building out content within Power BI is quite quick and easy to do. So if I give you an example of that, if I want to have a some kind of visual chart that shows me, okay, what are sales? And bearing in mind, sales is the combination of invoices and credit memos. It takes into account all of the correct value entries for stock valuation, that type of thing. And then I can just split that out by item category, and then I might have something else that is a selector, which might just allow me to pick the year or something like that. So I can just filter down my sales just for a particular span of years for the sake of argument. So I think once things are inside Power BI, I mean, this is just if you like, a nicer version with more content on, but the principle is basically the same. These here are just the card indicators. This is similar to what I just built here, and then it's quite simple to build out a graph here that shows sales and profit by month, for example. Okay, so building out visualizations in Power BI is not really that complex, but actually getting the data ready for Power BI is probably the more complex part of it. Now, after you've finished designing in Power BI, you can publish the report up to the Power BI service, and this is quite nice within Cosmos because we can complete the loop, and under the reporting section, which is where we were at before to access the Excel reports, then we can actually link into the Power BI service. So this is exactly the same report, which is just being surfaced from the Power BI service. So if we just authenticate that, and then I've got exactly the same experience. So the idea being that when you log into Cosmos, you have your Excel reports in one area, you've got content from the Power BI service in another area, so you've really got a one-stop shop for both styles of your reporting. Okay. I think that's pretty well all I'm going to show of the Cosmos portal at the moment. I'm just going to spin back just to go over some areas of development of Cosmos as well. So Cosmos is being actively developed as a product, and I'm very pleased to announce that we've got a whole raft of improvements coming out to the Cosmos portal. So the batch distribution that I just showed you, for example, at the moment, the distribution mechanism is by email, and then a recipient will get an attachment to the email. We've had lots of requests. Well, is it possible that we can actually distribute that out to a SharePoint repository rather than, or instead of, or as well as having an attachment to an email? Where reports are in the reporting area of Cosmos. We have some customers that have fed back, well, this is getting a little crowded. Would it be possible to actually arrange these in folders and that type of thing? So we've got reports in certain folders, and we've had requests around the data management side. Is it possible that we can actually see data within the Cosmos portal before actually running a report, so we can just preview the data inside of that as well? And when it comes to data management and reporting, well, when you check in a new version of a report, the version number ticks up at the moment, but it's quite difficult. It's not possible really to see who's made what changes and what date that was booked in. But anyway, that is just some of the improvements that that you can see here in front of you. So very pleased to be able to kind of show you this today. So I'm just going to spin back to the browser, and the first thing I'm going to show you, which is quite interesting, is a tenant administration center. So this is a little bit like Business Central, where it will now be possible for customers to have multiple Cosmos environments. And certainly for bigger customers, if you've got lots of different, or if you've got more than one Business Central environment, it could be that you combine those into a single Cosmos environment. It might be that you want to split them into two, or environments could be used that you've got a production environment and then you've got a sandbox environment. So it could be that you want to develop reports in a sandbox environment and then publish them across. And that is what packages will be used for transferring reports or new versions of the data model over from one environment to another. SharePoint sites will be used to establish new SharePoint sites that can be used as a target for scheduled reports that I've just shown you. So today within SharePoint sites, we've got the SharePoint site that is for the actual environment itself. And very shortly, this is still in development, by the way, so it's just explaining to you this is not a fully functional version. It's just to give you a flavor of basically what is coming, but you'll be able to add additional SharePoint sites and then make them available to the environments within Cosmos. And users and data sources are again set up once in this tenant administration, and then if I just edit this, for example, this data source is linked to both of the environments that I have set up. So again, it is going to reduce administration. Now from this page, and this will not be something that people come to that regularly, so it's very much like the Business Central Admin Center where you come to kind of manage the environments, but under my user at the top here, we'll be able to switch to whichever environment that I need to navigate to. The URLs at the top are also going to be dynamic, so you can bookmark a specific page. So if you're an IT administrator, you might want to come to pipeline runs or something like that, or the logs. And if you need to bookmark the home page or the Power BI section, then you can do the same. So all of these URLs at the top will be dynamic, and this is an environment identifier for the environment that I'm on. So first things first, on the home page, this gives us access to objects that I can set as favorites within the system. So there's a couple of folders and a report that I've set as favorites. So if I just come to report templates, so following the feedback that we've had from customers, this allows customers to now create folders and to store reports within the folders. So I've got a customer report here that is inside the sales folder, for example. Furthermore, if I just click the view in SharePoint, this will pop open all of the report templates in SharePoint. So I could create new folders, new reports here, that type of thing, and it gives customers the ability to go to SharePoint, which could be a specific site, which is the output of a scheduled task. So you can set up different SharePoint sites. So you might have a sales SharePoint site, a finance one, and that could be the output of a scheduled task that runs. You've got different opportunities here to look at the folders in a list view, in a grid view. You can set favorites here. and also within the actual reports, you've got this kind of breadcrumb trail to see what versions have been made, and it's possible to basically add notes when you check the report in, so you can see exactly what's been done, and it's going to be possible to revert back to a previous version as well. A very similar thing will take place on the data management side. So you can see in general like a brand new fresh look to the system. We'll also have a lot more in terms of metrics, how pipelines are basically running. So if something starts to take slightly longer for some reason, you'll be able to dig into the logs to see, when your pipeline runs to populate Cosmos with the more recent transactions from Business Central. If there is a bottleneck or something different is happening or a change has been made that's having some unwanted effects, you'll be able to pick that out a lot easier, and to see the time and how that's all broken down in logs. Within the data model section, this gives us access again to kind of a breadcrumb trail. We'll be able to step back and actually have to be able to view a read-only version of the data model as it was at a point in the past. So if you've made changes to the data model and say something's not working properly, then you'll be able to track back, see who made the change, when it was checked in, and then you'll be able to revert back and easily identify, and so you can make any necessary corrections. And this is very exciting. The actual for people that are working with the data model, this is a brand new view of how we can manage the data sources and the companies. And this experience here basically puts the entire end-to-end data modeling process onto one page. So I could basically resize this. I could select a table, select the source fields that I'm taking from this table. We are going to have multiple steps for the transformation. So this gives us a lot more capabilities to the data management side. And then I can just flip this over, and this is the reporting tables that all of those transformations feed into. So it gives us an experience that just sits within one screen that we can easily resize. So it just saves opening up different screens for the staging, for transformations, for the data model that we have today. And then finally, what I'll show you, the layout of this screen isn't finalized yet, but what this will basically give us is the opportunity. So I've got a customer table here. I can select all of these fields, and then I can fetch the data. So this is like a SQL query tool that is built into Cosmos that will give us a list of records, so we can preview data before we get to the reporting stage. So for anyone working on the data management side of Cosmos, this makes things really easy to use. So hopefully that's given you a good kind of insight to what's coming to the product, a look and feel for the user interface, and for some of the additional capabilities that we've just shown on this product development slide. So, but there's a lot more coming up, and there'll be notifications going out in advance of any of the interfaces changing for existing customers. So before we take any questions, so if you do have questions, please type them in. Lee will be fielding those in a couple of minutes. And just want to kind of give you some feedback. I think Cosmos is a great product, but don't believe me, ask AI. So this is just a bit of fun, but one thing that AI is now coming back with, if you look at Google, is that Cosmos is now considered the best reporting solution for Business Central in the cloud. So it's quite reassuring to see this. We haven't got any slides here today, but Cosmos has also just been recognised in a number of different industry accreditations as well for the product. So the product's really going great guns, and it will be further developed and enhanced. And we really thank the support for the existing customers. And I think for new customers, if you want to have a one-to-one demonstration and you've got some specific requirements that you want to ask us about, then please feel free to get in contact with Kik and we can line up a session with you. So Lee, I'm going to stop talking for a little while. So hopefully you've got some questions for us.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much, Rob. That was great. Yeah, we've got a few questions coming in. First question is, Cosmos is a cloud-based reporting tool. where is my
It
data
is.
stored?
Where,
Where,
okay,
where are, yes,
so
where
it's,
are you storing your data?
yeah, so you can think of Cosmos very much like Business Central. So it's a service, and it's like a hybrid model, because the report templates, the outputs of the reports are stored on the customer side on the SharePoint repository that Cosmos is connected up to. So we set that up when we run when we set Cosmos up for the actual report processing. Like with Business Central, your data is stored in a secure Azure SQL environment behind. That's part of the Cosmos service. Like Business Central, it's kind of tied down. We do not give direct access to that database for customers, so the data is basically accessed either via the Cosmos report editor or via a API that we open up when customers are using the Power BI feature. You can also connect to that API with things like Excel with Power Query, that type of thing. It's just one example. Power BI as to how you can connect to it, but it's basically an OData endpoint that you can connect to. So the answer is it sits in the Azure cloud. It sits in the region where where your Azure tenant is. Very, very similar approach to Business Central. In the background behind Business Central, again, there's a Azure SQL database where your data is stored, but it's segmented by customer, and it can only be accessed by the actual application itself.
Great. Okay. Another question is, I've got quite a bit of development within Business Central. How does Cosmos know about the development tables, and can I report within them?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll actually show you. So if we just jump back into the existing Cosmos portal, just here in the data management section, we install a connector onto Business Central, and this basically gives us access. So we dynamically scan your Business Central environment for any table and field. So most tables that are added as extensions, like this one here has got ACH in front of it. These are likely tables that would have come from AppSource. So there's something like, I think there's thousands of apps on AppSource now that are available as extensions for Business Central, but we can basically connect to any of those. And it doesn't matter whether it is standard Business Central tables and fields, whether it's extensions that have come as products from AppSource, or whether Kik as a partner. I know that the existing customers that we've worked with, they've got custom tables and fields that are on their system directly, and we've been able to link Cosmos up to that, and that's already been done. The one advantage in the way that Cosmos works is that you don't have to do anything special to Business Central in order to expose that information, and that's something that's a real kind of barrier for a lot of Business Central customers, particularly if you're using Power BI to connect directly to Business Central. You actually have to write an extension to Business Central to expose tables and fields that have been added as customizations before you can connect to it with an external system. So, and that has, of course, has to be maintained. You have to keep adding to it. And Cosmos, the way that our connector works, is much more dynamic. So it lists tables and fields out dynamically. So it's future-proof. It takes care of itself. So.
Yep. Okay. Great. And there's one more question come in. What type of licenses do you get with Cosmos?
Licenses,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
When you purchase, do you mean the user licenses for Cosmos?
Yes. I think they mean the user license. Yes.
Yeah, so Cosmos, so the very minimum that you can buy for Cosmos is a base package. So that comes with the Cosmos portal itself. It comes with one full user who is a report editor, and it comes with one Business Central environment connector. On top of that, customers can add to that on an a la carte basis. So you can buy additional full users, you can buy light users, you can buy Power BI connectors. We have also got the opportunity to gather data from other sources as well. So we've got customers that use that they might store their budgets in Excel rather than storing their budgets in Business Central. So you can actually buy an Excel connector, and then you can incorporate external data that might come from Excel and blend that with data that's coming from Business Central, and then report from the data model that is combining data from both sources. We also have used the Excel connector in the past. If people are on other ERP systems at the moment and they're moving to Business Central, they might want to bring some historical transactions along with them. So instead of filling the new Business Central SaaS environment with historical transactions, we can basically bring that into Cosmos, append the newer transactions from Business Central, and then you've got a seamless set of data to report from. So I think that's one challenge where people move to Business Central in the cloud, and they don't want to lose their historical data, but at the same time they don't want to fill up their shiny new ERP system with all of their old data. So we can handle that within Cosmos. So that's one example of what we can do.
Great, thank you. Well, that's it. That was the questions.
Good.
Great.
Excellent. Well, I mean, if anyone on the line has got any further questions, or you're interested in a further session to discuss your particular requirements or that type of thing, we'll be very pleased to speak to you. So yeah, without any further ado, I think if you've got any other questions, you can also just email your Kik account manager, or there's a generic email address, ask@kikict.co.uk. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you for the invite, Lee. It's nice to have us back for a second time. We must be doing something right, I think.
Yeah. No, it's been a great presentation, Rob. Thanks very much, and thanks everyone for attending.
Good. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Bye.